Former Environment Minister David Speirs has been elected as South Australian Liberal leader at a joint party room meeting this morning. Key points: David Speirs has been elected Liberal Party leader with 18 votes. David Speirs has been elected Liberal Party leader with 18 votes. John Gardner has been elected Deputy Leader. John Gardner has been elected Deputy Leader. Former Premier Stephen Marshall says he's confident the Liberals will return to government in 2026. Mr. Speirs was elected by his colleagues to replace former Premier Stephen Marshall, who resigned as party leader after last month's state election loss. Mr. Speirs comprehensively won the ballot, securing 18 votes to Josh Teague's 5 and Nick McBride's 1. It is an honour to be elected as the leader of the South Australian Liberal Party, and I look forward to immediately getting to work and developing a new vision for this great state, Mr. Speirs said. We represent a fresh, diverse, unified team which will rebuild the Liberal Party, will cast an alternative vision for the state of South Australia, and will provide a fresh approach to what leadership looks like not just in our party, but in our state. Former Education Minister John Gardner has been elected Deputy Leader. The changes to the leadership team continued with the appointment of Nicola Centofanti as leader in the Legislative Council and Jing Li as Deputy Leader. Liberal Party Whip Dennis Hood addressed the media after the votes. It's been a very long time that Stephen Marshall has been our leader, he said. Of course, given the election result, a change of leader was necessary, and today we have elected that new leader. 2 Liberal MPs were absent from this morning's joint party room ballot: former Deputy Premier Vicky Chapman, who is travelling interstate, and the member for Hammond, Adrian Pederick, who has COVID-19. Both are understood to have voted by proxy. Speirs promises centrist leadership. Mr. Speirs is considered a non-aligned Conservative, but today promised South Australians he would adopt a centrist policy agenda. I think you can expect a traditional centre-right approach from my term as leader. I think most Australians want a party that's pretty much politically centre, he said. Mr. Speirs added the environment would remain high on his agenda, but did not commit to keeping his former portfolio. I lead the most progressive environmental agenda in this nation. I want to continue to build on that progressive environmental legacy going forward, he said. From a social point of view, there are no particular issues that I expect to be chasing down. I have particular views about legislation that was presented to the Parliament that was between me and my conscience last year. Mr. Speirs was among a handful of Liberal and Labor MPs who voted against legislation that sought to decriminalise abortion. When it comes to amendments to those items, my voting record was very, very similar to Peter Malinauskas, he said. Mr. Speirs today sought to dispel suggestions of ongoing rancour between factions within the party, and described the broad church that this party is as a great strength. The full shadow cabinet is expected to be announced later this week. Marshall defends legacy as he steps down. Earlier, the joint party room was addressed by former Premier and outgoing leader Stephen Marshall, who congratulated the party's newly elected members Laura Curran, Penny Pratt, Sam Telfer and Ashton Hearn. Mr. Marshall told MPs he was looking forward to a post-election conference of Liberal MPs to be held next week. In a statement issued by Mr. Marshall this morning, he said serving South Australians over 9 years as Liberal leader and 4 years as Premier had been the greatest privilege. I look forward to the future and watching the Liberal Party progress further under the guidance of a new leader, he said. I am confident the Liberal Party will return to government in 2026 to achieve the best outcomes for South Australians. The party will now vote on Deputy Leader.